Okay, so here we go. So if you know anything about Stephen and I, he's my husband. So if I don't know you and you're not my coach, this is my husband, Stephen. And this is definitely, like I said, record breaking for him to be on a team call. The last team call that he was on was literally a champagne toast for our team hitting superstar. He popped in and just said, congratulations to our team for working hard. But this past year, he's kind of been more involved in just listening to our team and hearing me talk, especially since we work in the same room. So he hears me talking to new coaches on the phone. He hears me having team calls. And, you know, over the past year, he's kind of planted little seeds about how I could improve and how I can, you know, merge things and just be better and be more proficient as a coach and as a leader, which ultimately affects all of you. Until, what was it recently? Until July, or when did we start Lyft? When was that? Whenever we started Lyft.
16 weeks ago.
16 weeks ago.
Yeah.
16 weeks ago. So that was the first time he was ever on Facebook. He's still not on Instagram, but he is on Facebook. That was the first time he ever entered the social media world, you know, with regards to coaching and really seeing what we do as coaches. And it's been an experience, you know, to be able to do the Lyft training group with him. And he came to me a couple weeks ago? I think a couple weeks ago. He came to me a couple weeks ago, and he was just telling me some things that he had seen in some of our coaches. And I'm going to let him explain that. But obviously, he's had exposure to coaches on our team now, because when he joined the Facebook world, he became friends with all of you pretty much. So he was like, hey, I have this idea, and I can either share it with you, and you can tell your team, or I can do it. And I'm like, you can do it. Like, I don't want to share it. You can do it. And it literally aligns with what we need to hear as coaches. You know, coaches, what we do is we share our life on social media. And so many times we miss the mark. And that's why we're usually not connecting with our people. And lots of times that's why we're getting no's. And maybe that's also why we're not finding business builders who belong on our team. And it has everything to do with what he's going to talk about. So I'm going to let him take over. Thank you for being on. Thank you for supporting him. He is my better half. I would not be here today. Our team would not be the team it is today if it wasn't without his support, because when I'm working, he's helping out with the kids. So, and he's brought me dinner multiple times on Tuesday nights when I'm working. So he's the other half of the business. So we're going to switch spots, and then he's going to take it over.
This is going to be really graceful.
This is going to be magical chairs. Sorry. We're like in the little back corner. Okay, here it is.
Sorry you guys had to see that. Yeah, so look, in terms of the things that I thought I would be doing, this is not one of them. I never thought I would be with you guys on this call. I know you guys. I mean, I've met, I think, pretty much everybody. But you don't really know a lot about me and kind of the things that I do. And Allie's really created, I mean, just to share, you know, from my perspective, Allie's really created this just amazing, you know, community. And I deal in communities too, but I deal in business communities. And I've done that since I was 18, really. So I wanted to share with you guys a couple things that I do with clients that are absolutely applicable to what you do. I want to take you through kind of a fun exercise, actually, that just sort of requires a little bit of opening up. And I don't think that's going to be very hard for you guys. Like I started to think about, like, will people be able to kind of get, you know, into the mindset of just kind of being super open, because that's what this is going to take. And I'll explain more in a minute. But I think you guys got that down. So I think that's going to be okay. It's actually way harder to do it with somebody like me. I take a lot of warming up and like meditation before I do something like this. And I've been through it a couple times. So I'm going to do something really specific with you, but I want to set it up first. So I don't know, how do I bring up my...
I have to show them how to share the screen. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, share the screen. There you go. There you go.
Okay. So everybody can see that, yeah? Maybe some couple not, yeah, cool. So this is really about life experiences guiding the brand that you put out. And it could be on any medium. You guys tend to work on Facebook and on Instagram, social media. That hasn't necessarily been my platform because I work in smaller formats and in different settings, but I'm a strong believer in this. So what we're going to kind of go through, I'm not going to give a bunch of slides to you guys. I want to get to the activity, but just really quickly about me. So I'm in corporate sales and marketing. I've been doing that since I turned 18. I started working really early and started right into a career. And right now I manage an international marketing team for Cisco Systems, which is a large like IT company. If you have internet in your house, we built something that got it there. So just to give you an idea, I work with small and medium-sized businesses. And most of the people I work with are either engineers, and they're really like technical people, really super smart, but they have no idea how to connect with people and no kind of backstory in their business. They just kind of go out there and try to sell stuff. So the big thing that I want to try to do on this call is, number one, is get everybody to kind of see yourself very clearly. And this is going to get a little bit, like I said, this is going to get a little bit vulnerable. I'm going to have Allie do the same thing that I already did, and you guys are going to do as well. First, who are you and why? And we're going to answer that through an exercise. And then we're going to take kind of what we learn and evaluate the roots, the deep stuff. And then we're going to take those and really understand the opportunity that you have to incorporate those into your brand and into your business, right? So just another kind of quick word, personal and professional branding. So the brand to me is everything nowadays. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. People buy from people that they know, people that they trust. We're going through an exercise and sort of how to figure that out. So what you guys need, if you don't have it right now, you need a piece of paper, maybe 2 pieces of paper, a pen, a poster board, whatever it is. And I want you to turn it into, what is this, landscape mode? Yeah. I want you to turn it into landscape mode and sort of get ready to do a little bit of arts and crafts. And you're going to get at the end of this, the start of a brand strategy, and you might already have one, but this will kind of help enhance whatever you have. This is one conversation, but it's an ongoing conversation. So it's definitely not like a one and done thing. This will give you a kind of a kickstart. I'm not going to give you how to be successful. Allie does that a lot with you guys. You guys have a template for what you use to be successful. I am not an expert in social media because that's just not where I work for the most part. You are, and a lot of you guys on the call are. That's not where we're going. And the other thing is don't worry about trying to make this like a nice and neat thing. When you look at your paper, it might be really messy and really ugly, but it's your life, and we're not going to judge you for that.
You can hold it up there, and they can kind of see how you have it.
I have a slide with mine on it.
So never mind. I'm butting it.
Just, so the kind of name of the game here is attention, and any really good marketer or anybody who's worked in branding will tell you that right now in an online economy, we live in like an online world, right? Everybody knows that. If you can gather the attention of your audience, it's actually more important than having access to like their wallet, because they'll give you that. Getting their attention is the hardest thing. And when you scroll your social media, if you're on it, you might even be on it right now, just zooming past things, right? We all do that. We get on social media and we just zoom past things. You stop when something catches your attention, yes? Attention is absolutely the most important thing that you can do, but then your audience, once they give you that, they want you to be authentic. Authenticity matters more to us than even value sometimes. We might see somebody who's super authentic and give them money because of it. You might have a brand that you really love online. I've got a brand that I love. It's called Huckberry, and it's insanely expensive stuff that I have no business buying, but I love going to their site and looking at it because they talk right to me. It's like outdoor stuff. It's like fly fishing. It's all the stuff that I absolutely love. You guys probably have brands. I know you have brands that you love that get you to buy, and that's what you're doing as well. Okay, so audiences want that from you, and they can spot inauthenticity, lack of authenticity from like a mile away. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take 15 minutes, and you're gonna do some arts and crafts. So what I want you to do is take that piece of paper that you have. You're gonna start from your birth. You can write. I wrote on mine my year that I was born in this kind of like birth, and then draw yourself an arrow all the way across. This is you. This is your life. What this is going to include is literally all of the big events that have got you to this point. I'll give you a couple quick examples. Like for me, I started at my childhood. I described on my timeline that I'm the youngest of three, and I'll show you mine in a minute. Any like major life events that happened, unexpected changes, what you're looking to capture here is impact. You might have, 5 entries on this timeline, or you might have I think I probably have 20. So I'm going to actually give you a little bit of time to identify these things on your timeline. And then we're going to come back to this in a little while. Allie's going to do her paper. I've already done mine. I've done this a couple times. Your goal here is to really capture yourself on one sheet of paper, which is insane, right? We're all so complicated. We're all so deep, and I get it. If you need to write and you need to, turn your paper over and start on the other side, go for it. This is yours. It should be exactly that. So let's get our Christmas music ready while everybody tries to make their picture.
Do you mean to set a timer for how long?
We're going to set a 15-minute timer. So
Okay.
don't rush. You don't have to even finish, actually. Do your best. Try to get yourself up to the present day, but I'll check back in with you and kind of see how you guys are doing. Be real on this thing. Don't hold anything back.
Now, when you say here, I'll let you, never mind. I'll say something.
Yeah, if there's any questions about it, I can definitely answer those. Did you have a question?
I was going to say, you had mentioned to me, depth and vulnerability, write down, stuff that isn't, surface level, but, really deep.
Like the real stuff. Like your life events, big things that have happened to you. If your parents got divorced, I mean, stuff that you would say were major impact moments for you. That's what belongs on the paper. Yeah?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yep. I got Christmas music, and we're going to go.
I don't know if Christmas music really fits the exercise, but let's give it a shot.
Well, I see a Christmas tree in Christy's house right now. So
that looks great.
Okay, timer's on. That makes me happy, this music.
Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Yuletide carols being sung by choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows the turkey and some mistletoe help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh. And every mother's child is gonna smile to see if reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering the simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you. So I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry
same
It
song.
is. Stuck with the same song. Oh, where else? Oh, this is good. Michael Bieber.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. Take a look at the 5 and 10. It's glistening once again. Candy canes and silver rings that glow. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Toys in every store. But the prettiest sight to see is the holly that will be on your home front door. Pair of hopalong boots and a kiss of the juice, the wish you funny thing. Dolls of the talking will go for a walk as the whole Janice and Jen. Mom and Dad can hardly wait for school to start again. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere. There's a tree in the ground, one in the park as well. It's the sturdy kind that doesn't mind the snow. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Soon the bells will start, and the thing that will make them ring is the carol that you sing right with your heart. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Toys in every store. But the prettiest sight to see is the holly that grew on your own front door. Sure, it's Christmas once more. You better watch out, better not cry, better not pout. I am telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Ain't gonna listen, he's checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty or nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. And he sees you when you're sleeping, and he knows when you're awake. He knows that you've been tired, so big up for goodness sake. You better watch out, better not cry, better not pout. I am telling you why. you when you're sleeping. Any knows you go. He knows that you've been not a good, so be good for goodness sake. Little one, you better not cry. You better not pout again. Santa Claus is coming to town. You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not cry. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming. I know the big bad man with the long white beard. He's coming to town.
Need more paper?
Merry Christmas, lady.
Look at me.
Put it in.
Ready to sing a little jingle bells? Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
I'm going to add one quick thing to the slide in case you're kind of getting to a place where you're ready to add something. So I want you to add to your paper. It doesn't really matter where. Hold on. Okay, so two quick things. People who have meant the most to you, so people who have made an impact, and then places or things that have meant the most. And by the way, I'm going to show mine after this, but like generally that just means people who have impacted you. And let's go positive as much as possible on these. Sometimes our timelines, mine's actually pretty negative, some of my timeline stuff. But in the
Well,
people,
what if you have a really, like,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
dad is a massive part of my life and it's all negative.
yeah, and that's okay. Go ahead. This is your paper. But people who have meant the most and made an impact on you, and then places or things. So like for my place and thing, I have music on mine. Music has made a big impact. That's sort of a thing. A place is like the salt water, the beach. Like that's made actually a huge impact on me, like materially. So that's kind of a guiding post for that next part. Just list them out. Doesn't have to be pretty.
I'm gonna have to stop. I only got dogs. I'll do the rest of it. I'm gonna first. Yes. A lot. I get emotional when I think about the people.
Keep going. So I was going to say it's weird to cry to Christmas music.
I'll put something sullen and depressing on.
Keep going.
I'll change it. You want to put something
No.
else?
I'm totally kidding. It's fine. that 15?
Yeah, almost 15.
So maybe I'll just, how's everybody doing? It's hard for me to get a sense of where everybody's at. Thumbs up if you're done, or maybe close to done. Yeah,
They can catch up.
close
too.
to done. Because you can always sort of come back on some of these.
I need a whole nother sheet of paper from marriage and above, pretty much.
You got all the important stuff before me.
I need a whole nother sheet of paper. Okay, I said done.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, there's a chat. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And is everybody muted right now?
They can unmute themselves.
If you want to unmute yourself, go for it. Because I just want to kind of ask just a couple really quick questions.
Do you want to take off the sharing?
No, leave it on.
Okay.
Was that hard for anybody to write? Did anybody actually struggle with that?
You can unmute yourself and say yes.
Yes or no? Actually, no is fine too.
I'll talk. Hey, it was funny. I feel like it was Pandora's box. I started writing and I was like, oh my gosh, this happened. And then this happened. So it kind of uncovered a lot that I was like, wow, didn't realize all these connected the dots.
Yeah. And you know what? It's weird. Like some people and it probably wouldn't be the people who would say anything right now, but some people like me actually struggle with figuring out this kind of thing. Like actually, in just writing it can be helpful to some of us that don't necessarily express our feelings as openly, right? So starting kind of from the beginning and writing out those big things, that can actually be, it's not meant to be free therapy, but it sort of turns into that a little bit when you start to sort of look at some of it. The other thing that can be super powerful with this exercise is to share it. And I'm going to share mine with you. And that's actually going to be my contribution of major vulnerability on this call that I'm super uncomfortable with, but I'm going to do it anyway, because that's really what this is sort of about. So I would encourage you to share your paper, whether you can do it on this call or not, I don't know, but share your paper with somebody. This is also a really, really good, just a side note, this is a really good team building exercise when you don't know people very well. You get to know them really fast when you get everybody to share their paper. So I don't know if we're going to have time to share everybody's paper. I doubt it, but I'm going to share mine because actually what's going to happen next is we're going to turn this into the foundation of the reason that we're on the call, which is sort of the branding conversation. So these are all going to contribute. These are literally the pillars and cornerstones of your life. This page that, look at your page really quick, that doesn't capture you. There's no way we could capture you on a single page, but it does show us sort of the biggest things that have contributed to why you are where you are. And sometimes you might have to look further into it or ask yourself a couple questions about it, but these are actually probably the really big events. So I'm going to share mine in sort of the way that it looks. And I don't know, maybe you want to share some of yours too, if it's not, unless it's,
I would say too, we can make this our call to action is to, by Friday, take a picture of yours and share it in our team page so that everyone can see it. That's the vulnerability.
So that could be interesting, depending on what people have written down. So there, this is kind of, my format got all messed up and I started to just screw everything up. But, this is kind of where mine starts. And so I'm 34. I'm the youngest of three. I have two older sisters, Christian house, but sort of a weird Christian house, sort of steeped in, religion and not necessarily relationship with God. And, some things that were, scary for me as a kid. My parents didn't really have the best relationship. They definitely did their best, but they both came from broken homes. There's abuse in their background, and then some of that came into their marriage. I was homeschooled as a kid. I was the youngest, and I feel like I was very independent, sort of played, by myself a lot, whether that was because I had to or whether it was because I wanted to, I don't really know. It's a different session. But some of the things that I kind of picked out for myself was that I grew up loving baseball. Baseball is in my background. It's in my, foundation. I played baseball all the time. I slept with a baseball hat when I was a kid, and that changed as I got a little bit older. One of the big like life events for me was when I was kind of entering middle school, sort of 12 range. My sister got pregnant, and just kind of threw our entire house into turmoil as if it wasn't sort of already, right? So my guess is that on this call we have people who have had divorce in their family, absolutely, for sure. There's I'm sure of that, and turmoil at home, maybe abuse at home. These are all like, and I went back and looked at what were the things that I wrote that were positive and what were negative. And sometimes the negative things really stick out to us, and we tend to kind of push those down, right? And I look at my negative stuff and I don't ever want to talk about it. But the reality is that's one of the most authentic subjects I could ever bring up, is to talk about broken homes, or to talk about parents, or to talk about people that don't respect their wife or their daughters, and bad attitude towards women, teen pregnancy, being forced to grow up fast. Odds are a lot of people on this call have some of the same things in their background. And when I was sort of in that age, I was sort of an average student, knew that I could be a really great student, but just didn't really ever put the effort in. And then music and church and Allie entered my life when I was, 13, 14, 15, kind of in that range, and really changed, my life in the course of who I am. And I learned, guitar, and a really positive experience for me growing up, and found a different set of family, and a different group of people that really loved and cared about me. And that becomes really impactful for me. And some of the people that you see in my people who mean the most are people from those places for me, people that came into my life and filled some sort of hole that I didn't know about. But I grew up pretty fast, not necessarily like loving and nurturing, but went and was doing college when I was 16, and that led me to work really early. Probably didn't do all that stuff in the right order. Probably didn't really have enough guidance to make decisions like that at that point, but that is what it is, and that's where we're at. Lost direction a couple different times. And my alley line over to the right is break up and then marry, which it seems like we lost a couple steps somewhere in the middle there. Can they see that? Or
yeah,
that
they can't see that.
Oh,
That's just
okay,
yours.
Yeah. That sort of all, I kind of all mashed this last part together, because again,
That was mine.
I did this imperfectly. I didn't really get this nailed down. I've done it a couple times. I still can't seem to do it perfectly right. But all these life events and becoming a dad, 23, and that's pretty young, when you compare it to when most people become dad, all those things equate to what matters to me. And the stuff that happened early on makes me who I am right now. So when I really kind of boil this down, these are the turning points, actually, for a lot of positivity. These have made me into a certain type of employee, a certain type of dad, a certain type of husband. Not all good. They're not all good, right? We're working through some of those, and we all are, right? But this is kind of foundational. And then my people who have meant the most, you don't know all those people, but those are the people that matter to me. And then places or things that mean the most. The reason I had you guys do this is because as you're kind of turning over some of those things and beliefs, and Allison, you were saying, like, as you're writing those things from the beginning till now, it really puts you in a mindset to think about the important stuff. So the important stuff to me, places and things, are listed there as well. Stuff that I really enjoy and that I care about, and stuff that sort of has stood out to me, kind of throughout my life. So we're going to do another step after this. I don't even know if I dare open Pandora's box of sharing.
Do you want to ask me a question?
Maybe
that's better. I have a long list of things in my life right here. Maybe way too many to cover in 5 minutes.
How about this? So,
should I unshare this? Or do you want to keep it like this? Do you have more to share?
No, it's fine. Just
Okay.
leave it. Stop
Okay.
trying to unshare my presentation.
Okay.
It's fine. All right. So in terms of like the biggest stuff, so I'm gonna make you pick 3.
Okay.
The biggest, they can be positive or negative. Share your
I have lots of
biggest.
negative on here.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
That's part of it.
Okay.
Your big 3.
So I'm going to break mine into, I'm going to do elementary, middle school, high school,
Oh,
and there. So that's how I have it written down.
all right, fine.
Based off of like high school and elementary.
Let's do that.
Elementary, honestly, elementary through middle school was hell for me, if I can be honest with you, because my family dynamic. Elementary, my dad was abusive. He was an alcoholic, and I went through that with my mom. And he has been married 9 times, and he blamed all of the divorces on me. So I carried a lot of guilt and rejection starting at a very young age. I can remember in kindergarten having to call the cops on my dad. So I have a lot of issues from elementary. Going into middle school, I was bullied. I was bullied for boobs. That's the truth. I don't laugh. But I would go to parties and people would dare me to take my bra off and prove that I didn't stuff my bra. And I remember I walked home 3 miles when I was, I think, 12 years old because I was so embarrassed. I'm going to cry over that. That really like bothered me.
Okay.
So I was bullied at a very young age, starting in 6th grade. In 7th grade, I started to deal with binge eating. That was a result of being bullied for being well endowed as a 6th grader. And I started to take hydroxycut in 7th grade to help myself lose weight. So that was middle school. Going to high school, obviously I was dating Steven, and I will say that God put him in my life because I had the worst father in the whole world, and God knew I needed a stable male figure in my life, and I was blessed to have a 15-year-old male figure in my life. That became my rock. So that was probably when I met him was the biggest blessing in my life, when I met him from elementary to middle school. And, you know, high school, I was a straight A student, president's list, highest GPA, class president. Like high school was great because I had him and I did amazing in school. And then poop hit the fan when Steve and I broke up. And we got back together and we got pregnant before we were married. And that was probably one of the other biggest milestones not milestones, but like speed bumps. Impact. Because we grew up in the church. He was a worship leader. My mom was the administrator of a church. I wrote papers on abstinence. I was like pro abstinence in high school. And I got pregnant before we were married, and then a whole new wave of embarrassment and rejection and fear. And honestly, I felt like I was walking around with like this scarlet letter for years because I got pregnant before I was married, which we were raised as a sin. And it was very obvious that we made a mistake in the church's eyes. So that was really difficult. I would say those are like the biggest things. I mean, and then you go into marriage, we've had 3 beautiful, amazing babies, and, you know, marriage hasn't been easy, but I'm so thankful that I've been able to live this crazy journey with him, because it wouldn't be the same without him. So he's the best blessing out of everything.
Okay. All right. So I
didn't mean to cry on that part.
We all owe you guys money for marriage therapy that we just kind of went through right in front of you. Glad we could do that. No, that's great. No, thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate it. Okay. So here's kind of what you want to do next. And I'm going to take you through mine again, not because I want to talk about myself more. That is not what I want to do, but I just want to show you kind of what this turns into, because this isn't just about, you know, writing out everything that ever went wrong or right in your life. So these are my roots. Like this stuff goes down deep, and, you know, the stuff that sort of makes me feel a certain way is all based on that previous, you know, exercise that we did. Sometimes, you know, the feeling of neglect, lack of guidance, you know, not having an opinion that matters, insecurity with money, you know, being felt like you never have enough. These are all things that are a result of what I wrote before. And these are things that I'm prone and I'm susceptible to, but they're also massive opportunities for strength and improvement. This is something that you probably want to think about more. Maybe you can write a couple down right now that you know. Maybe you identify with one of mine or a couple of mine. But this is really important, because what this ultimately gets us to is the last step, which is to turn these things into the strength and the pillar of really the way that you go and target your business, the way that you craft your personal brand. It comes from here. It doesn't come from business school. It doesn't come from reading, you know, 1,000 self-help books, although those are amazing and they have their place, but it comes from this place. So I'm going to do like a really short timer, like maybe 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. What are your roots, and how do those make you feel? What are you prone or susceptible to in your life? These I guess tend to be a little bit negative. You don't have to make them that way. You can make them however you want. This is yours. So a couple minutes to write a few of these down, and it's important because it kind of gets us to the last part of this. Keep writing. Don't get distracted. Okay. Okay. All right. So you probably got a couple, and maybe you have a couple more. And here's kind of the last part of it. And this is really where this kind of all, you know, syncs up for me and starts to really make sense for me. Because of that, because of the things that I just wrote and I just showed you, this is who I really am. And this is who, not only who I am, but this is who I want to be. This is how I want to be perceived. These are the things that actually matter to me. All of that comes back to the first part of this, which is this has turned me into these amazing things. There's not going to be any negativity here. We all have struggles. My strengths are the things that you see on the screen. I'm totally comfortable calling myself an awesome dad because I am. And it's because I didn't have that, but I want to be that. And I work every day at that. And, you know, being a Christian is the most important thing in my life, being a husband, you know, all of these things are, this is who I am. This is what I want people to see. So if you only made it halfway through one of the exercises, and if maybe you didn't connect with the second exercise, the point is that this is the place that I want you to get, because these are the things that people will care about the most in you. It isn't about being able to follow, you know, an exercise program to the T and eat perfectly every day. People aren't buying those things from you. They're buying an outcome from you. They're buying a lifestyle from you, and your lifestyle and who you are is amazing and it's unique. And nobody is going to have the same combination of these things that I do. So in terms of my personal brand, this is what people will see from me every time I show up in a room, every time I'm on social media. Maybe not the best example for me, but a much better example for you. Every time you're on social media, this is what you want people to see. You need to be actively practicing these things, actively practicing displaying what has come out of this, because that's the authenticity that we talked about at the beginning. This is what people will relate with the most. There's nothing on here that I'm afraid of putting out there and that I'm afraid of talking about. And it's because I'm confident. It's because it comes from a deep place inside of me that I know, because of all those things, and a lot of that junk that I talked about, a lot of those other experiences that I talked about, this is who I am, and this is how I show up. So my sort of call to action here is, you don't have to share. And I know Allie talked about sharing this, this page, which is like the timeline page. You don't necessarily have to share those things if you've been on this call. I think you should really hold yourself accountable to this page more so than anything. The 5 to 10 things that really make up who you are uniquely, those are the things that you want to make the pillars of your brand. And your life is your brand. And that's kind of how we started all this. And sort of the last statement that I wanted to make to you guys is, you absolutely have every reason to stand tall. You are the only person who can deliver this combination of value to your customers. Like, there's nobody else that can do it the way that you do it, because nobody else's timeline looks the way that yours does. And nobody else looks the way that mine does. I have zero fear about being that person, because I know that that's who I am. So, this is meant to kind of impart some of that confidence to you, in that you're pretty awesome and you're pretty special, and everybody has something very unique to offer. Everybody's sheet looks different. Allie's sheet is a disaster. everybody's is slightly different. So look, I wanted to thank you guys. I definitely, I don't know if there's any questions. Certainly you can ask me questions, but I'm going to hand it back to Allie, and just thank you guys so much for taking the time with me. Appreciate it.
You did good. You still have time. So if they have questions, they can ask you questions.
I end my calls on time.
You have 8 minutes. Stop. I told him I always go over on our calls. Our diamond call last week went to like 11 o'clock. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you guys can ask him questions if you have questions, if you want, or share.
I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm always the one that always wants to talk. I have a question for you, Stephen. So because you're complete third party and you see most of Allie's team on social media, what is like, and I'm personally asking for like the hard truth. I don't know. You don't have to like pick on anybody, but what is like the number one thing that you see of all of our posting of who you do see that's like, you look at it and you're like, like, I know it happens, because even my husband does it, where we get sucked in the Beachbody world. What do you see us do that you would say is one of our biggest mistakes as coaches? And then what do you think would be like a huge improvement or like a step to change it?
Yeah, I actually love this question. Like, we've talked about this.
He just said this to me too.
Yeah. So this is awesome. I never would have brought it up, but thank you. No, I mean, look, the cardinal sin in creating a brand, or in branding anything and marketing anything, is to sound like somebody else. That is the absolute worst thing that you could ever do. It's the opposite of productivity. You basically have taken all of your value out of the equation when you sound like your friend. And when somebody sees your post and then sees somebody else's post and it looks exactly the same, there's nothing original about that. A lot of times I think that's the trap. And I think you guys don't come by that dishonestly. I think the deal is you have to engage so much to get attention. And it's such a struggle to kind of capture that that you try to overcome it with volume. And that's not always the answer. And I think that sometimes is one of the traps that people fall into. Like we do at work, we do like really big media buys where, people's ads show up on Google and search engine optimization. We do a lot of that kind of stuff. We never run, the same thing twice, and we never run it more than, once every 4 or 5 days. And, the attention thing is really big, but the antidote for that is not to just continue to just blast people with the same selling message. And, Gary Vee's got a book about, it's jab, jab, right hook, or jab, 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 right hook. And it means that you provide value to your audience throughout the week. And then at the end of the week or in the middle of the week or one time or 2 times or whatever the cadence is right, then you really come in with the right hook and you hit them big with the actual sell, right? So you do have to do both of those things. But a lot of times, you forget that one of your first jobs is to provide value to your audience, not to yourself. So that's the piece that I would say that's the standout for me in terms of, I don't know if it's a pet peeve, but I think that could be improved for sure.
So you think that they should add more value or have more depth in their post, or not sound so much like everyone else? Like, where do you?
I think it's probably all those things, but I think you have to kind of, you can't see, because you guys are inundated with each other's feeds, and now I'm inundated with your feeds. Thank you so much. No, I'm just kidding. But you guys are inundated with looking at each other's stuff, and you can't even help it. It's like osmosis. It's like you go to post something, and you might say something and you didn't even realize that Alyssa said it last week or that Allie said it 2 weeks ago, because that's your life. That's the life that you're living. So I would just encourage you to reset yourself a little bit. This can be helpful for that as well, right? Just to like kind of say, okay, screw all those other posts that I'm seeing. Like, who am I and how do I want to show up? I think you got to be really clear about that and intentional. I think that's kind of the message.
Yeah, and even this is having to do with that, like being authentic in your post. Megan, one of my coaches, this past weekend, she took a picture of another coach. She wasn't on her team. Took a picture of another coach of and this coach literally copied my exact post, word for word, emoji, like literally everything was identical. And Megan sent me a picture of it on Sunday, and she's like, this coach literally just copied and pasted your message, like word for word, everything. So I messaged the girl. I actually messaged the coach, and I said, hey girl, I said her name. I said, I love that you were inspired by my post. I said, but I've worked really hard at creating a brand and being able to share my story authentically. And I would really appreciate it if you wouldn't copy my content, because truly coaching is about your brand, your story, your mission. Again, I really appreciate the love that you liked my post and you wanted to reuse it. I said, but that really is my content and it's my story. And she messaged me back and she's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't even think about it. I'm just so inspired by you, and I just don't know what to say. And I struggle with posting. She's like, I just love your wording and the way you phrase things. So it's in that situation where people will never connect with her because she doesn't know her voice. She doesn't know her voice. She's literally copying and pasting my story, my message, like my emojis that express my emotions. Like, people will never connect with her. And it's the same for all of you, is that if you all took this story, if you guys took my timeline and you tried to share this, no one would ever connect with you. Yeah, it might be powerful that you talk about divorce and abuse and getting pregnant, but there's no emotions behind it because it's not your story. There's no depth. There's no emotions. And he didn't say this, and I was whispering to him, but I would encourage you guys to look at this and use this, and like once a week, take a piece of your story and share that. Like, because you see how much I have on mine. There are so many pieces of my story that I've never shared before. And Allison, Christy, none of you will ever copy and paste this, because this isn't you. And that's what you guys have. You have a non-copy and paste story that's going to make you authentic, like he said, and that's going to help you truly connect with your people and find your tribe and find the women that need your help, because they see themselves in you. That's what it's all about, is them seeing themselves in you and seeing that they have the potential to overcome neglect, to overcome abuse, to overcome, eating disorder. That's what they see. So any other questions? Sorry, I took that over there.
That's okay.
Any other questions for Steven? he might not be back on for another 3 years. So, any other questions now?
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys for being on. I hope this, obviously, it was even powerful for me just to write this down and kind of read it and share it with all of you. And I hope it was the same for you. Maybe you've seen a part of your story or identified a part of your story that you didn't think about before. Some of this stuff that I wrote down in middle school, I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that I went through that. So take this, use this, you know, use this to be a part of your story. That's really been a present topic in Beachbody, is sharing your story and being authentic. There's a book by Kendra Hall it talks about storytelling. That's an incredible book. Trying to think who else. Jenna Kutcher, she talks about storytelling. I mean, really dive into that, because what we do is storytelling, but it's telling your story, and that's the best part. And it really also becomes really therapeutic. Something I've learned in coaching is that the more I've shared about my life and I've shared about the struggles and how I've overcome them, that's really what becomes your message. Your mess becomes your message. Your pain becomes your platform. And it's God, if you are faith-based, he can take your mess and turn it into this beautiful masterpiece where you can really help women, and you can create a community. I'm dropping pins, like all of you on here. All of you are on here are because I shared my story. And that's exactly what will happen for all of you. So that's it. It's 10 o'clock. We did it in an hour. Great job. So that's it. Thanks for jumping on. I will post the recording. If you want the slides, I can see if Stephen can provide them if you want pictures of the slides. But thank you so much for jumping on. You ladies are fabulous. I think that's it. Next week.
And Brandon too.
Oh, we had Brandon on here. We had Bryce on here somewhere. So love it. Love that we have some husbands representing, which is pretty cool. Next week, just so you know, next Tuesday is our new coach call at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And please save the date. There's so many beautiful faces on here. Save the date for December. Please be on this call. December 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be our casting the vision. We are going to do some vision boards and casting the vision for our lives personally and professionally, both as we head into 2019. And it will be a really, really great call. So please be on that. And that's it. Thanks for being on, everyone. You're fabulous.
Bye, guys.